Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. It's a new month and time to reveal Spellbinder's clubs. And you are going to love it. It is all about stitching. I'm going to be starting off with the large die of the month, which is just a fantastic die set. And I'm creating a blast from the past, Grandma's button jar. Almost everything that you can think of associated with stitching is included with this die set. But for this fun easel card, I'll be focusing on mainly the buttons. I began by die cutting the jar out of light blue cardstock and then an assortment of buttons, lots of buttons, out of different shades of blue, teal, and cream, and a couple of silver buttons are thrown in there for good measure. The first thing that I'm doing is creating a base layer of the buttons by adhering them directly to the jar. Just like buttons in a button jar, everything is going on very random and some of the buttons will overlap one another. Several of the buttons were reserved so that I could pop them up with small foam squares. And I'm just placing them randomly across the collection of buttons. I had a few flowers left over from another project using the 4-petal bloom reflection die set. They're small flowers and the colors were right, so I've decided to add them to my collage of buttons. Flower centers had already been finished off using silver Nouveau crystal drops. So all I had to do was put a little foam square on the back of each flower and then add them in, and I think it's just a really sweet addition. The die for the pin cushion at the top of the jar was used to cut foam and cardstock. Initially, I die cut it out of light blue, but it really got lost on the light blue jar, so I switched over to a soft teal. And as you can see, I had die cuts of pins and a needle that were die cut from silver foil cardstock sandwiched between the foam and the cardstock. The screw band for the jar was also cut from silver foil cardstock and foam. The cardstock one was mounted on the foam. This is my favorite die from the entire set, this sweet length of thread, which I have cut from dark teal cardstock. After it has been threaded through the needle, then I'll use a little drop of glue to attach it to the back of the needle and also the top of the pin cushion. And it is adhered to the top of the jar, aligning the edge of the die cut with that of the jar. Then the foam-backed screw band is adhered directly underneath it. And then I'll apply just little dots of glue to the thread so that it will attach to both the screw band and the jar. And now to create the easel card base for this jar. An A2 size card base was created with the same dark teal cardstock that was used for the thread. It is A2 size at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches and top folding. The front of the card was scored at 2 inches from the bottom and then creased well with a bone folder. Folding the jar up to where it would sit on the creased fold, I used a pencil just to make a little mark so I knew where to place the adhesive and then attached it to the card base. And the front of the card is finished off with a pin on the pin cushion and then the sentiment from the glimmer of the month. It has been foiled with aura on white cardstock and the coordinating die was used to cut both the sentiment and foam. There are a number of sentiments that are included in the Glimmer of the Month, and they are all so cute, SEW. And now to finish off the inside of the card, I'm starting off with another die cut of the length of thread, this time out of the soft blue cardstock. I've also die cut it from white sheet foam. The white sheet foam die cut has been left in the backing. This is a very fine die cut and I wanted it to have some dimension. When foam is die cut, it leaves an impression and it is very easy to align the cardstock die cut to the foam one. To avoid the two die cuts slipping out of alignment, it is important to let the adhesive dry completely before removing the excess foam. But before that adhesive dries, I'm going to take a needle that has been die cut again from silver foil cardstock, slip it on to the end of the thread, and then put a dot of glue on the other side of the thread where the tip will overlay it. And I don't think that I said that the needle was actually thread through just the cardstock die cut. And when the adhesive is completely dry, all the excess foam is removed, revealing this fine die cut with lots of dimension. This will be perfect sitting on the inside of the card. A small panel of dark teal cardstock was cut to 4 1/4 inches wide, the same width as the card, and 2 inches high. It was adhered to the bottom of the inside of the card and will provide a lip so that when the easel card is opened up, it has something to brace itself against. This is the perfect card for the recipient to display, so I'm going to add some decoration to that small panel that was added to the bottom of the card. It looks just like the jar is sitting on a tabletop, and so I'll add in that dimensional thread with the needle and then scatter 3 buttons to finish the display. That first button I have tucked under the beginning of the thread, so I didn't adhere that down until the button was in place. And then the last 2 buttons can be adhered slightly overlapping one another. There is a die to create the top of the pins, but I wanted to create an enamel look. So I'm going to be applying Nouveau Vintage Drops Bohemian Teal to the top. And these look so cool when they're dry. They look like real pins, and the needle looks pretty realistic as well. And then just to round out that button design, I had to add in a few more accents, again continuing with that bohemian teal, and then adding in a few of the white Nouveau crystal drops. The little touches of white really brighten up the overall design. And that completes this fun and easy easel card featuring Spellbinder's large die of the month. I just adore the theme for this month. I don't consider myself a stitcher, but honestly, it just grabs my heart. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making this card. And as always, I appreciate your visit.